Well, hello and welcome to Yellow Flag FPL, the podcast where all of our opinions should be yellow flagged, but maybe less so this week because we have two self-professed experts of FPL, one which has been proven, one which likes to call his name Champ all the time. We have Tommy C and Jake, who you may remember from last season, who love a little tete-a-tete. So this is going to be a bit of fun, as Stephen is currently away sunning himself in Portugal. So we're going to do a bit of a pod about the new rules and some of the prices, and generally hear from the guys about their approach to FPL. So, lads, for the listeners, please introduce yourselves. Jake, why don't you go first, sir?
So I'm one of Harry's good friends from school. We've been playing for about 6 years. League going. Didn't start very well. I bottled a couple of titles on the final day, but last 3 years I've really sort of tightened up and sort of won the league at a canter 3 years in a row. So yeah, I'm top of the hill at the moment. But yeah, let's see how it goes with the new rule changes and all that.
Cool. And Tom, I have noticed you changed your name to Champ Jr. Leads me to question who is Champ Senior. But take it away, Tom. Introduce
That's me.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Ah.
A team, a team name change was needed this year. Even for me, 3 years on the trot of having not the ideal outcome in the EVM. So I'm going Samba style this year, Champo Jr. He normally comes out at the end of the season when it's backs against the wall, but I'm playing Samba FPL from the off this year. That could be your podcast name next year, Harry, when you rebrand again. What we're Um, so yeah, as Jake says, I'm another member of the EVM. I won the titles that Jake bottled, um, and yeah, no, I think our style is pretty similar, right? We sort of go around looking at try and play optimally. Jake is just a little bit better than me at that at the moment, but really, I've just come on this podcast, as I'm sure most of your listeners will, Harry. They hear Jake's on it. Listeners are going to come in their thousands, right? I don't mean to bill him up here, but if this guy, you know, he knows everything about the game. So God, for God's sake, listen to Jake.
Yeah, and if he gets it wrong, then what does that say? What
Could
does
you
that say?
imagine? Could you imagine if he made a mistake on this after that, Billy?
Yeah, yeah. The
I
seamstress
will.
is never wrong. But look, let's talk about FPL. Obviously, the game's gone live, and we've had all the prices. I've done a draft. You guys have talked about sort of semi-drafting, but let's talk about some of the rule changes because I think there are some interesting ones in there. And I think we'll kick it off with the more chips that have been introduced. So last season, as players will know, you got two wild cards, but you only got one of bench boost, free hit, triple captain. This season, in game weeks 1 to 19, you get all four of those. And then in game weeks 20 to 38, you get those four again. So, and given the fact that, double game weeks probably only exist in the latter half of the season, it does add an extra dimension. So, chaps, Tom, why don't you go first? Tell us your instant reaction to those chips and how you think it changes the game and how you think you're going to change playing it as a result.
That's a good question. So I think the multiple chips, right? So basically doubling your chips. I quite like it. I quite like it, if I'm being
Mm.
honest, because there is a way of playing when you get to the latter end of the season. Yes, you might tweak when you use the chips, depending if you're chasing or whether you're leading in a mini league or however you play with your chasing rank. Um, but it's kind of clear which is the best way to play it when you get to near the end of the season, right? So they're not sort of null and void, but I think the impact of them is definitely reduced. Whereas, although I'm sure there'll be lots of schools of thought, and some of them will converge at the same point for how to use your, I guess, first half of the season chips. I think there's likely to be a bit more variance in when people use them. So um, I'm going to find that really interesting. Um, I think particularly will be interesting for these as well as the combined with the obviously the change last year of being able to roll 5 transfers over, as well as the ability to get basically an extra 5 transfers for Afcon. I think all of those are going to come in to make it pretty interesting. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I mean, I think you're right as well. It's unlikely you're going to have uh, double game weeks, so they're certainly less likely in the first half than the second half. But if you know, there's certainly some sort of thought which says let's play your bench boost like really early on, even game week one. But you could live to regret that come a you know
Mhm.
extreme weather. You know, if King Charles had turned for the worst, you know, you could live to regret playing your bench boost early. So no, if I do go with a game week one bench boost, it'll be because I've made a call to the Palace to check on his medical records beforehand. So no, in all seriousness, I think I like the change. I think um, it will bring more different schools of thought in the first half of the season, the second half of the season when it comes to chips, particularly whoever's hot this season out of Salah, Haaland, etc. You know, one of those players are going to be flying when they play. They're at home to a team that's having a shocker. I can see everyone's sort of conversion on the same triple captain, but bench boost potentially there'll be a lot of. I think the most common week for bench boost will be game week one. Whether most people do that or not, I doubt it. But I think the most common week for it will be game week one. Free hit. I mean, free hit's going to be fun. I actually think free hit's probably the most because you're going to look at your team and it's if all your players are playing away or you've got like four injuries and you want to save those transfers, that's going to be the one I think people that will be sort of spread out the most is the free hit. No, but overall, I'm a fan of that change, i.e., chips coming, basically double chips.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But Jake, go on. You'll give us your take on the change on these extra chips that we've now got in our arsenal.
Yes, I think it's probably one for like probably more of the casuals. I think it's more of a let's just play as many chips as we can. I think like I said, there's a pretty obvious way to play last year. Like it was with your assistant manager or triple captain in that Liverpool double game week, and then use the other one in the other like double game week. And sort of everyone did that, but now there is just going to be a load of different strategies for like the first half of the season. Um, I'm not a fan of the AFCON transfers. I think that's planning for that is part and parcel of FPL, and if you can't
Yeah.
do that, you should be rewarded. But fine. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot more ways to play. I'm definitely looking at bench boost game week one. I think it's just a good chance to
Yeah, me too.
like using a bench boost, like just message up your team, trying to like get as many
Mm.
points as you can for your bench, and that you sort of lose points on the pitch. But if you can just get out of the way early doors, um, yeah, I think that might be just useful to get rid of it. Like especially because there's
Yeah.
not going to be any double game weeks in the first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I've
So
seen a strategy of like bench boosting game week one, free hitting game week two, and then wild carding into game week three. And I just
yeah,
think that it seems like carnage. But and then as Tom's alluded to, if Salah's at home to Sunderland, and Sunderland are doing as predicted, then that could just be a good triple captaincy option right there. So yeah,
yeah, I don't mind it. The I guess every season, like there'll be some things that just weren't obvious before the start that like
yeah, yeah.
you want to have like a wild card or like, in your back pocket to sort of deal with that. And I don't know if game week three is like it's a bit too early. Like look at our teams that we started with last year, and like obviously
Mm.
all of us having Kunku. I think did you have like Barco? Like everyone picked two players that were
Yeah,
just
I had
like
Barco. Yeah, yeah.
seemed very good at the beginning and turned out to be like absolutely awful. So yeah, you've got to get them out, and ideally not use a wild
But
card
that,
for that.
but that's why I think like the wild card in game week three isn't the worst option because if you kind of learn quite quickly who those players are, right? And I think maybe game week three is too quickly, but like I do think you could say game week three would be. I think the difficulty would be it would involve quite an excessive amount of planning. I'm not sure whether I'd have the time or inclination to do so. So yeah, I don't know. But it definitely makes it more fun. And I think that the more chips involved just means the averages across the board are going to be all over the shop as well. So I'm not sure what that does for people in mini leagues and the overall kind of impact on the game. But yeah, I agree. I think it's just for the casual players.
I think one of the challenges would be probably for me particular, because I'm always trying to save my wild card till as late as possible. I play quite conservatively, right? I want to save as many transfers as I can, and I want to save my wild cards for as late as possible, which sometimes
Yeah.
is at the detriment of early points. But actually, you know, at the moment, my way of thinking is again bench boost game week one, which I'm trying to almost come up with a way of bench boosting one and then not having to wild card straight out of it.
Mm.
I don't love bench boost one, free hit two. I think for me it would be bench boost one, wildcard two, right? If I'm gonna use wildcard, because I don't see the value of.
Yeah.
In fact, if you were going to bench boost one, you'd probably and free hit two, you'd probably have pretty. Most of your teams are likely to be at home for game week three anyway, so you'd probably then go four. But I'm going to try and see if I can get away with bench boosting one and then holding the wild card for longer, just because I hope that maybe gives you an edge later on, and maybe on the wild card game week two, game week three, is they a lot of people are going to be getting on bandwagon players. Let's say I don't know Hoyland gets off to a start and scores a hat trick against Arsenal, or scores two against Arsenal, whatever. All of a sudden, people might think, "Oh, this is his season," and then he inevitably goes on and doesn't score in the next 10. They've kind of burnt
Mm.
they've burnt their wild card on players that have got off to a hot start as opposed to sort of the consistently strong players. So yeah, I'm going to try and see
Yeah.
if I can have my cake and eat it, but that itself comes with a risk, right?
Yeah, I think what we're saying is that there's lots of new strategies and different ways to play it, and I think there's no right way, of course, as we would say, but it definitely adds a layer of fun. I mean, both of you have hinted at it. The
Yes.
other rule change, which kind of came a bit
Sorry
left
to
field, I'd
interrupt, Harry.
say. Yeah,
I was just going to say, you're right. There's definitely not a right way of playing it, but there is a wrong way of playing it. And listeners, stay tuned because Stephen's back next week and he'll tell you all about that.
and there it is, lads. Excellent. I have no words to say about that. That's brilliant. Anyway, so you both mentioned one of the other rule changes before we go on to the last one, which is my favourite one, and I want to talk more extensively about the AFCON transfers. I was listening to another podcast. I know, how dare I? And they said, look, if Salah gets injured, this rule change has been for nothing. If Salah gets injured and he's out for that entire period, or he doesn't go, or something happens that means he can't go, like, surely this is a rule change just for Salah. And I don't really like the fact you can use those 5 transfers on anyone. I thought initially it might be only players that were in your squad. But actually, if I had no African players that were going to the AFCON competition, I could still use those 5 transfers. That's my understanding. So it's like having a mini wildcard almost. And that seems a bit, I don't know. It seems for the the people that just don't plan well, rather than for the actual health of the game. I don't know. What do you guys think? Jake, you go first this time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I said it is for people that either don't plan well or have forgotten to do their teams. Like, oh, I got 5 free transfers again. Like, yeah, I don't know if they're just trying to get as many sort of they want to get as many players as possible playing the game, don't they? So they can have as many
Yeah,
people on their
sure.
website, their sponsors. So I think every change you can probably see through that lens. Yeah, I don't like it, but maybe there's a way to sort of optimize and get a good bit of value out of your team from it. So yeah, it's a busy period, isn't it? That sort of December, January.
Yeah, because you could use it as a mini
yeah.
wildcard at the beginning of the year, and then save the wildcard towards the end when going into those sort of double game weeks. No, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Tom, what do you think?
I don't love it. I don't hate it. I don't have a strong opinion on it either way, if I'm being honest. I don't think it was necessary. I don't think it was required because trying to keep, more of the casuals in play, i.e., those that don't update their team every week. They're probably not. They don't roll over, right? You just have them for that week, as far as I'm aware, or you just have 5 again. So it's not necessarily a
Yeah,
call to action for them to get them back on site. I don't think it's going to have a massive impact. The only thing it does change, and again, this is something I've reflected on with most of the changes. I'm probably going to have to change my own play style, right? I said I was quite conservative. It doesn't suit a conservative. None of the changes suit conservative players, so we have to be a bit more on the front foot with that. If you see opportunity in terms of transfers, in the build up to that week. There's no point in saving your transfers. Just burn through them because you're going to get another 5 in game week 16, 15. I can't remember exactly when it is, but
16,
at some point
16.
16, like start middle of December, right? You're going to get another 5 then. So yeah, it doesn't. I'll have to adjust my play a bit, but look, I'm not going to shout and say it's ridiculous. What have they done? They've ruined the game.
Mhm.
Nor is it a fantastic thing they've done. I'm pretty neutral to it, if I'm being honest.
There's something quite satisfying about rolling a transfer, which I just don't think we're going to be doing like all that much this season. I like just putting my team in, same lads again. I'm really backing my boys. You know, Harry's doing 3 transfers. My team's probably still going to outscore them. Like there's a certain like big dick energy about rolling a transfer that I just think we're going to miss out on this year. But maybe that's just sort of an FPL purist's.
You think? I think you'll definitely be rolling transfers still. I still think there's a lot of value, regardless of the fact that it gets topped up, right, of having 3, 4 free transfers in the bank, right? Because you can restructure as well as just subbing and out players, right? If you've only got one free transfer too, you can't really restructure. You sort of have to. It's just player swaps, right? Whereas, or you have to invest in a. If you're going to restructure, you do it over 2 weeks. I still think there's quite a lot of value in having 3, 4 free transfers. So maybe in the build up to those events, you're right. Like in the 2, 3 weeks before Afcon, yeah, you're worth playing really, really short term.
That's what I mean by about the. I think that's where you're right about conservative players having to think more adventurously. That's why I'm genuinely thinking about doing a bench boost in game week 1 because I'm like, fortune favors the brave, right? And just go for it and see what happens. And the thing with the Afcon transfers does give you that ability over the Christmas period just to play the week on its merit rather than think longer term and think, oh, I might have to wild card out of this situation if I get that player in, right? Um, so I think on that basis, I think it's quite useful. But I'm in the same camp as you, Tom. I don't care about it too much to really have a strong opinion about it. But Jake's clearly of the Daishian philosophy. Don't change anything. Keep everything as it was.
I don't know who asked for this change. I genuinely, I don't know how many emails do you think they got asking for this. I probably not any.
Yeah. It did seem odd in that respect. Like I don't remember a single call from the FPL community saying that this was something that needed to come in. We'll move on to the last change, which is my favourite one and has been very cleverly named DEFCON or Defensive Contributions, which I'm very much enjoying the community get their teeth stuck into. It kind of does change our view of centre backs and holding midfielders, brings them a bit more into the game. I think players like Declan Rice, Rodri, Casado, they come a bit more into the conversation as actual assets, as opposed to just being expensive mids you could sit on the bench the whole time. So I've got some stats here for the points in terms of the top 3 midfielders. If this rule had been in last season, would have been Casado, Elliot Anderson, João Gomez. And then for defenders, it would have been James Tardowski, Jan Bednarek, and Dean Howson. So yeah, providing a bit of an extra incentive to get those sorts of players in when traditionally maybe we'd just go for wing backs and sort of attacking mids. But yeah, chaps, what do you think about this change? Has it changed your thinking about planning? I assume it has. And if so, what players are kind of catching your eyes as a result? Or do you have any in mind that could be good? Tom, do you want to kick us off there?
Yeah. So first and foremost, on the principle, I think it's quite a good idea. It brings more
Yeah.
players, more individuals, more footballers, I guess, into the game that you can pick, which again means that there's going to be more variance in people's teams, etc., etc. So I think it's a pretty good idea. In terms of again, I've put a draft together, right, and I haven't given it loads and loads of thought. How much did it impact actually who I've picked? Not a huge amount, if I'm being honest. So, for example, it doesn't change any of my strikers, doesn't change any of my midfield 5, because I just think the upside of the attacking players is too high. I'm not going to pick, like, Elliot Anderson's not going to be making it into my team, for example, if I'm playing 5 in midfield. Maybe if I need maybe if I'm playing 4 in midfield, I'm looking for a 4.5. At that point there, yeah, I'm definitely going to look to see who's most likely to start and get me those 2 points, as opposed to searching for someone who's going to get me an odd assist, right? Defensively, yeah. So clearly, when you look at players like I think the Forest centre halves did really really well last season on that metric. So you'd look at Murillo and Milenkovic. They're 5-5, so like the price reflects the fact that they're going to, you know, that they're going to get these points. And same with Tarkowski, like 5-5. I can get Destiny Doggy for 4.5. So I'd probably sooner go there. I think you look at the headline people know Tarkowski, people know Murillo, people know there's a couple of others, right, that are being touted around as they did really, really well with that last season. So I think the value is going to be looking for the players that are a bit further down that list but are priced at 4-5. And I think they're probably going to come from some of the promoted clubs, Leeds, Burnley, Sunderland, some of those other teams that you don't think are going to do that well this season, some of those teams that don't have much possession. So you see Frimpong and Van Dijk in at same price. And I think in other seasons, Frimpong wasn't there, but I'd be pretty quick to just I'll take Frimpong there. This season, I'm not so sure. Right. So the odd point that Van Dijk's going to pick up through this, I really think it's a really good addition. I think it's going to be interesting, game week to game week, how players are getting on. Whether I'm going to go chasing those players that are going to be picking up 2 points here and there, probably not. But I think it's good. I think it's really good. I think when you look at some of the numbers behind it as well, there are only 4 players last that average 10 or more per game, and only 2 of them, as far as I'm aware, still in the league. So Tarkowski, Murillo, Bednarek, and Dara O'Shea. There's loads of players that are in the 9s, and clearly those points are going to be spread across different games, right? So just because they average 9, it's still highly likely to be getting 10 or more in plenty of games. To summarise is, yes, I like it. No, it's not going to impact too much the way I play it because they're now priced accordingly. But thirdly, I think for some of your bench options, rotation options, I think they're useful. The other thing actually I would say, although I think it changes it, is historically, right? Let's say you've got Ethan Pinnock, right? Let's say Ethan Pinnock's one of your centre halves. As soon as he's about to go on a bad run, he's going to play Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea, City in 3 of his next 5. It's a no-brainer. It's just an immediate sell, right? Immediate sell. If you've got bigger issues at play, if you've got other things you want to change, I don't think he's as immediate a sell anymore, because whilst the clean sheets are gone, whilst he's not going to score, there's a solid chance that he might pick up 2 points in maybe 1, 2 of those games, right? So I think that's the one thing that I haven't heard people say too much about. That is some of those 4.5s or players around that sort of price bracket that would previously have been just immediate sells because they're about to go on a bad run. You can maybe you're more likely to hold them.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. And just for those that don't know, the DEFCONs are defined as clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles. So it's players that really kind of get in the middle of it in those moments. I guess it brings in the centre backs a lot more. I don't think I will be signing an Elliot Anderson, although he seems to be the love child of the FPL community at the moment. He's 5.5 and second for defensive contributions amongst midfielders. But more likely, if I had a player like that, I'm probably benching him anyway. So I'm not sure entirely what it does for me in that respect. But Jake, I mean, for you, has it changed the way you're thinking about it? Are you thinking about bringing in some of these more defensive players that could be in for a shout?
Yeah, I think, along the lines of what Tom's saying, it's generally not gonna really be chasing it. I do think I might be more likely to pick centre halves. I think Van Dijk's pretty good value at 6. I think he started like 6.5 before, and he scored more points. So I'd be pretty confident, having not really thought about any drafts yet, that Van Dijk will be at my team game week 1.
Would you consider playing 4 at the back as well, Jake?
No, probably not. To be fair, there's not a lot of strikers out there. Yeah, maybe 4-5-1. I think it's. I think it might be good for like box to box midfielders. I think like Rice isn't like terrible like value. I think you need other threats. You can't just say I'm chasing like defensive contributions. I don't like Caicedo to be, like for example. He's doing nothing else. So I can't see myself picking that. But I think like box to box, see like Ryan Christie's only 5 million. I think he could be a good fifth mid. If he
Mm.
like, I think Lewis Cook's injured, so he's probably going to play every game. So yeah, I think that there is some value there in some of the lower teams. If you know you're maybe not your holding midfielder, but like a box to box, like an N or whatever. If they're at a good price, stick them on your bench. If someone doesn't play, you've got a bit of your first bench player, and you can sort of get a team. I think it's quite big. For, like obviously this is like a normal FPL, but it's quite big for like draft FPL. I think because it's just like it opens up a whole different load of players. So obviously don't have to talk about that, but I think it makes draft FPL a lot more interesting for any of your listeners that play that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a nice to have. I think the way it's been compared to goalkeeper saves, I think is very accurate because that's the reason why I have cheaper goalkeepers, and mainly because I don't like having a load of money tied up in defence. Is for those extra points, because even if they concede 2 or 3, they might make 10 saves, and you get the extra points, and that's always quite nice. I think we've covered the sort of new things coming to FPL, but of the prices you have seen, it's going to be my last question for you two. Have there been any ones that you think have been woefully underpriced, or those that have been woefully overpriced? Any bargains you've noticed, given everything we've talked about, but also in general? So yeah, Jake, any players you think are woefully underpriced or woefully over? Go for it.
Um, it's going to be a bit of a disappointing answer because I've honestly not really bothered putting any drafts together. I like I think Verts is maybe a little bit cheap. Is he 8.5?
8.5, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a bit of Verts at that price. But obviously it's another Liverpool slot. I think if you're going to go Salah and Van Dijk, do you want to fill your third Liverpool spot with him? I liked his price. I think Salah and Haaland are both like very high. I think that rules out picking both of them. I'm picking 0 or 1 of Salah and Haaland. I don't think I'll be going into game week 1 with both. I think that price is a bit prohibitive.
Oh, 0 or 1. Why 0? You...
I don't know. It's like they're a lot of money, and if you can get a few good premium midfielders in at their expense, I've probably 1. But I quite like my no Salah, no Haaland draft last year, and didn't pick it, but I thought it was decent.
Well, probably good thing you didn't. I think last year, the big start of last year, they absolutely came off to a stormer. I tried to make a draft with a freemium, and it was really hard, and it meant that my defense was just absolute garbage, and I probably was playing 4-5-1 most weeks. For the record, that would have been Palmer, Salah, and Isaac as the 3. But I think just with the uncertainty around Isaac and
Mm.
the amount of sacrifices you have to make elsewhere, not really going to go for that at all, to be honest. But out of the premiums that are there, so if we think about Palmer, Salah, Saka, Isaac, Haaland, who do you think it would be number 1 on the team sheet for you?
I quite like Cole Palmer still. None of the Man United players, but I do think Man United players will be pretty good next year because they've got no Europe. So you're going to get probably 90 minutes out of Mbermo, Bruno, and Cunha.
Cunha.
I don't think all of them, but I think there's a good chance I'll have 2 out of those 3.
Well, see, Bruno's 9 this year. Cunha and Mbemo are both 8. I think Mbemo goes down in value because he's not on pens, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Man United look pretty good, look pretty solid as picks. But
Well, they still might be rubbish, but like Cunha was great in a
yeah, true.
rubbish Wolves team, so I think Cunha could still be great in a rubbish Man United team.
And Tom, you have done a few drafts. So players you think are overvalued, undervalued? What's caught your eye so far?
Yeah, I'll start with undervalued. So I think some of the Tottenham players look pretty nicely priced. So Destiny Doggy for me is at 4.5. And you sort of see some of the other players going at 4.5. I'm like, for me, he's in my current draft. I think Kudus as well. I think obviously with all these things, you kind of need to wait how pre-season goes, and how you think they're going to line up on game week one. Transfer market still open, etc. But Kudus at 6.5. I thought that was pretty potential, at least to be pretty generous. Um, those were the main two that sort of stood out to me. I agree with Jake with Verts. Verts and Marmouche both at 8.5. Thought they might have had potential to be a bit more expensive. I mean, Morgan Rogers went straight into my team at 7. Thought he could have been
Yeah, me
higher.
too.
The only other sneaky one that I saw that I don't, just sort of basically I was looking at some of the £6 million midfielders and I didn't like 6 million below. Nothing really stood out to me that was like, oh, actually, I think they should be higher. But I think clearly the best £6 million midfielder for me was Callum Hudson-Odoi at 6 million. I don't think he's
Hmm.
necessarily great, amazing value, but when you're looking at that 6 million area, you're dealing with some of those players that probably had a bit of a bump up because of they're expecting maybe to get the odd 2 points here and there. But there's no one that excites me, right? I mean, Smith as an attacking thing, Smith Rowe's there, maybe Paqueta's there, but these are all players that have just like continually failed to deceive, right? Whereas Hudson-Odoi seems a bit steadier to me. Likely minutes by the end of last season, his minutes were slightly. I don't think he played every minute of every game, but with Alanga moving on, you think that might be a bit more likely. No, I don't know. At that price and below, he stood out. The only other ones I'd say to keep an eye out one Harvey Elliott, 5.5. If he
Yeah, I wanted
goes,
to make
he's
change. Yeah.
probably he's
Yeah,
probably better
let's talk of him
than
going to
Hudson
Tottenham
Doyle.
now.
If Harvey Elliott went for 5.5 to Tottenham, that probably makes him no longer a great asset, but it also probably makes Kudus no longer a great asset, right? So uh, if he goes to somewhere else, if he goes to West Ham or wherever, I think at 5.5 is probably quite a good price. But
Yeah,
you want someone
I
who's going
quite
to
like
play
a
regularly.
Dingra. I like a Dingra at 5.5. I think 5.5 million for Dingra is pretty good value. Sunderland seem to be just absolutely going for it in the transfers. Like they've bought so many attacking players, as well as Xhaka apparently is now coming to shore up their midfield, which is hilarious in itself. So yeah, I quite like a Dingra, to be honest. And same question I asked to Jake: the premiums. So I mentioned them: Salah, Palmer, Saka, Isaac, and Haaland. Probably the standout ones there. Which one are which two, which three? Tommy C. Which are you considering for your team?
So I'm same view as Jake. I don't think you can get Salah and Haaland in the team and have enough um, cash in the bank to make your rest of your team strong. I would definitely want one of them though. Um, and for me, I've got at the moment out of the players you've just said there, in my current draft, I've got Salah and Palmer. Now, Palmer and Saka, I'll be open to having that Saka. It's just simply because if I'm playing bench boost, we're thinking about potential wild card early. I'd rather have Palmer at home to um, Palace. Saka, I think away to United. Maybe they're at home. I can't remember. Um,
It's away. Yeah.
so is it away? Yeah, there we go. So for me, Salah Palmer, but I think it's quite a fair trade off, right? For Palmer and Salah, I think that's a fair trade off. And Salah and Haaland, there's gonna be different. There's gonna be points in the season where you'd expect them to be one of those to be better than the other. I wonder as well, right? Yeah, if Liverpool sign Isak, they've then got a front four, right, of Salah, Verts, Isak, and then I guess rotating maybe a Ekitike if they move him out to the left, or maybe they move. Yeah, unlikely to move Isak out to the left, right? But you could play Ekitike out to the left, but probably more likely um, maybe keep Gakpo out there, right? Are you of the school of thought, or are you of the school of thought that, oh, great, they're going to be so much even better attacking, so Salah's going to be picking up more points? Or are you of the school of thought, actually, they're stronger going forward, they've got better individuals going forward now, so the returns are going to be spread out? Because obviously, with one, you're like, well, Salah, oh my God, he's going to be even better this year. Second school of thought is, well, actually, yes, they may be better, but it's going to be spread out more and his returns might diminish. What school of thought are you in?
I'm probably of the schools that it's going to increase them rather than decrease them because, like, if you think last season, like when Salah comes up against shut up shop defenses, they would just put two men on him, and it'd be really difficult for him to do anything, and it would more than likely be a Harvey Elliott or someone like that to pop up with a goal because of the space created. Whereas this time, with that sort of attacking firepower, there's going to be too many Salahs, effectively Salah level players for them to do that to. So they're going to have to go man to man, and in that situation, Salah generally does better. For the record, I don't think, and this is probably going to date badly, I don't think Isak is going to go to Liverpool. I think he's more like sign a new deal than go to Liverpool, to be honest. But yeah, I just think that the way that Salah plays, you need two people on him at any one time to even stand a chance of defending against him. And if you've got a team with that much talent, you probably can't afford to do that. I don't know, Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it gives you a bit of an issue of like because there's only a limited number of slots. I mean, you would want to have probably two or
Three.
maybe three Liverpool attackers if they're that strong,
Yeah.
and like it just like who do you pick? I think like generally like most of the top teams now just have two strikers, and it does make it like a bit of a nightmare trying to figure out before the season started like who's going to play the games. Because they might get Isaac and Ekatike and just rotate them. They might say, you know, Isaac, you can play like all the big Champions League games, and maybe Ekatike plays against some of the smaller teams. Like Isaac's fitness record isn't great. What do you think Gyökeres is going to come in at? So I think he could be pretty good if he takes penalties off Saka. I think that's like a
Would he
again
take
another
penalties
question.
off Saka?
He's got pretty flawless records, and Saka's is not flawless.
Yeah. Oh, go on then. That's what do you think? I think 9 million probably.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I'd say
don't.
nine, and I think
I'm gonna
nine
go
is like fine.
9.5. 9.5, I'd say.
I mean, maybe this is my Spurs bias, but I'm just not convinced that Gyökeres is going to be that good. But mind you, I said that about Haaland a couple of seasons ago, so as you two might remember. Anyway, so look, I think we've rattled on a few things there, and Tom, seeing as you've reminded me of this section, and I'm probably not going to do it for any other pod, but seeing as we have two of our esteemed guests joining us, so let's do some FPL predictions. Top goal scorer in the Premier League next season will be Jake.
I'm gonna go Haaland.
Tom.
Yeah, I'm going Haaland as well.
Top FPL scoring goalkeeper next season is going to be Tom.
Crikey.
It's Pickford last season.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good one. I will go for. I'm going to go David Raya.
David Raya. Yeah. And
I
Jake.
almost went
Jake's
Pickford.
quickly looking at some stats.
I was just looking at who they were. I'll go Allison. I think yeah,
Allison.
if the were as strong as they seem like they're going to be, I'll go Allison, and he makes a lot more saves as well.
Cool. And then final
Harry,
question
we
is
we
going
need
to
your
be the
predictions as
top
well.
scoring.
We need your predictions as well.
Yeah,
My
maybe some
prediction.
comedy.
Some comedy. I'm going to say if Isaac stays at Newcastle, it'll be Isaac, top goal scorer. In terms of goalkeeper points, or I'm going to go Kelleher, just to be a bit rogue. Tommy C's face is enjoyable for that particular comment. But yeah, and then my final question was going to be top scoring defenders in FPL. Who do you think is going to be top of that list, Jake?
Sorry, I'm just going to get up who scored the most last year. I'm going to go. I'm going to go Virgil van Dijk. I think it's the safest guess.
PVD and Tommy C.
I'll go Gabriel.
Okay. I am going to say. What am I going to say? It's a bit boring to go for a centre back, isn't it? Really, I'll go for Guardiola. I think, you know, I think he's still going to be quite high in the def cons because I know that didn't exist last season, but it would have he would have been quite high if that happened. And I still think he'll get a bit forward, and he probably will rotate and will sometimes go wing back, not necessarily centre back. Cool. Right. We've been whittering on for a fair amount of time now. I thank you, lads, for your contributions. We should say before we go, cheers to the Lionesses who have retained the Euros. Congratulations to them, showing the men how it's done, which is fantastic. And yeah, we'll be back with another pod in about a week or so's time. It's now 3 weeks till D-Day. Oof, are we getting excited? Jake hasn't done his team yet, so I presume not. Stephen has told me he's going to play properly this year, so I don't know what that means.
Well, yeah, whatever he was doing last year was not properly, so that's good to know.
Who did he have in his draft, Harry, that you told us you've seen?
He picked a different team to you, Harry, so to be fair, he did have a hand tied behind his back. So.
Yeah,
It's an advantage.
he decided with that rule at the beginning of last season. I told him, no, that's a silly rule because it means I'm just going to pick Haaland and Salah and you're going to be screwed. No, so in his team, he's got the Sunderland goalkeeper, some player called Esteve from Burnley, a doggy, Alina, Frimpong, Timber. Then he's got Wirtz, Kudos, Sessegnon, Gibbs, White, and Saka. And then he's got Haaland and Watkins and Isidore from Sunderland. And then he's got Darlow as the substitute goalkeeper. So he's got 2 promoted goalkeepers in his team. Well, thank you, lads. Really appreciate you coming on and stepping in when Stephen has been away. We're going to do another pod in a couple of weeks, like I said. Our thanks as well to Rita for helping us with the production. Please do give us a like and a follow wherever you get the podcast. Please not in the street. That'd be weird. And we will see you next week. So thank you very much, guys.